On the last episode of Menace, the Ken story, Ken decided to trust Pops, so they made a plan to go to a gambling spot. Against all odds, Pops did exactly what he said he was going to do. Actually, he made a little bit over the $5,000 that he told Ken he'd get. With the money that Pops came up with, Ken was only $1,362 short. But knowing Rob in the way that he did, Ken was aware that any amount under the $25,000 wouldn't be accepted. Seeing that Ken was nervous, Pop suggested that he have a drink. Tipsy and still stressed about the money, Ken made the impulsive decision to rob a bank that they passed. Also impulsively, he killed a guard when he entered that bank. But the biggest surprise of them all was the fact that Shalonda was one of the tellers. Long story short, she let him get away with the money, and she gave him the keys to her car. Ken went to the spot where he and Shalonda used to go when they were teens. He counted the money and realized that he got over like a fat rat. He called Pops to come and get him and take him to Rob so he could pay him in exchange for the kids. But when Pops got there, they realized that the cops were close. Pops decided to take one for the team so Ken could run with the money to save the kids. And as soon as Ken reached the car, he heard gunshots. And now, Chapter 27, Robbed, narrated by Shandora Warren. Thunderstorm by Epidemic Sound. I drove away calmly, but my heart and mind were all over the place. I heard gunshots. In my heart, I knew Pops was dead. Pops had been in and out of prison. I guess he decided that he wasn't going to go back. Once that reality hit me, I started sobbing and hitting the steering wheel. It was all my fault. I had chosen to rob that bank. And while Pops had made the decision to take the charge, there wouldn't have been a charge if I hadn't jumped. My motivation was getting the money to save the kids, so I ain't look at nothing past that. But when it really came down to it, I had another day and a half to come up with $1,362. Why didn't I just wait? Why did I jump like that? And because I did, the guard at the bank was dead, Shalonda was probably looking like an accessory to the crime, and Pops was dead. I didn't feel right about any of it, but those were the realities of the situation. And as badly as I wish I couldn't take any of it back. I just had to keep going. I drove to Mom and Pop's house to swap out cars. I didn't go inside, and I was hoping that Mom wouldn't come out. I know she didn't know about Pops, and I didn't want to face her. I couldn't. Besides, I didn't have the time to get distracted. I needed to get to Rob. It was only Friday, and I had until Sunday to pay him, but there was no way that I was going to let the kids sit for any longer than they needed to. So I called Rob and told him that I had his money. "Come on over," he said. But on the way there, I went into a full-blown panic. I remembered that I had given Pops my gun. I didn't trust Rob at all. I thought about all the times that Pops told me that Rob couldn't be trusted, and I broke all over again. Pops was really gone. And then I had to go and deal with whatever nonsense that Rob might have had up his sleeve. But it was do or die. I pulled up to Rob's and took $25,000 out of the money. I silently prayed that he was just going to take it and tell me where I could go and pick up the kids. I knocked on the door, and Rob answered like it was just a normal day, like I wasn't there to pay him in exchange for my kidnapped kids. He had a smile on his face. "Come on in, little man," he said. I walked in and stood directly beside the door, just like I had done on my previous visit. "Have a seat. You look tired," said Rob. I didn't have time for Rob's theatrics, and I didn't pretend that I did. I said, "Look, Rob, I ain't trying to do all that. I got your money. Just tell me how I could get my kids back, and we could just both go our separate ways." I handed the money over to Rob. He chuckled a little bit and said, "Stay right here. Let me make a quick phone call." He walked away. But to my surprise, he returned with Kennedy and Malik. I hadn't ever seen those kids so happy to see me. They were clean, and they didn't look hungry, but they definitely looked like they had been through something. I don't know why, but I guess I assumed that Rob would have had them in some secret location, because that's something that Rob would do. The whole time, they had been locked in his basement. "You had them here the whole time?" I asked. Rob did that thing that he always did, and it ticked me off. He chuckled and said, "Well, I ain't got a crew no more, so I gotta do things a little differently. Besides, the kids had fun with Uncle Rob. That first day might have been a little scary when we played that game when y'all got tied up, but the rest of it was okay, right?" Neither of the kids answered. I told them to go outside and wait for me while I talked to Uncle Rob. Once the kids were outside, I went on and got it off of my chest. "Rob, we're square, right? All of this is over, right?" Instead of answering, Rob decided to perform a speech. He said, "You know, LeMan, you've always impressed me. I gave you until Sunday, and here you are, 2 days early. That reminds me of the first time you came to visit me. I gave you a week to sell some weed, and you got rid of all of it that same day. You're a heck of a businessman, LeMan. I wish your baby mama would have picked up some of that. Then I wouldn't have had to have her killed. But that's in the past. I want to take something back that I said. One of the last times I saw you, I told you that you were nothing to me and that you do nothing for me. I warned you about being a liability. But one thing that I've learned from dealing with you over the past couple of weeks is you can certainly be an asset. I think you could be bigger than Mike or Tommy ever were. So what you think? We could start our own crew, me and you. No more little man. I'll treat you as an equal partner." I looked at Rob like he was crazy, because he was, in fact, crazy. After everything that had gone down, why would I want to work with Rob? So I decided to perform my own speech. Partner? Why the heck would I want to do that, Rob? All I want to do is go to work and take care of my kids the legal way. Not only do I not want to be your partner, but I don't ever want to see you again. And if you ever touch or even come near my kids, I'm going to put a bullet the size of a quarter in your face. Partner. I guess Rob ain't like that. He pulled a gun from his waistband, and before I knew it, he had placed it directly onto my forehead. He chuckled. "Yeah, what you got to say now, little man?" The reality of the situation hit me so hard. Rob had a gun placed on my forehead. It had a silencer on it. I realized that he could have killed me, and the kids wouldn't even have heard it. He probably could have gone outside and told them that I'd asked them to come back in. And once they were back in, he could have quietly killed them too. Nah, I had gone through too much for it had to have ended there. Not only that, but Rob had done too much, and he had been doing too much for a long time. Think about it. Rob killed Hot Boy's mom while he was in the house. He took him in and made a drug dealer out of him. Then basically treated him like he won't nothing when his nephew showed up. Kenny started selling for Rob. Kenny got killed because Lorenzo got jealous about him possibly moving up within the crew. He wouldn't have got killed if he hadn't started selling for Rob. Rob had Mia killed, then made me pay him for his services. And to make sure I paid him, he kidnapped my kids. And because he kidnapped my kids, I robbed a bank, which led to Pops getting killed by the cops. Then he had the nerve to put a gun to my forehead because I told him to stay away from me and my family, like he hadn't ruined every life that I'd known him to touch. Nah, we were somewhere else at that point. I decided that it was going to be me or him. I grabbed the gun and we started tussling. We were in a full-blown fist fight, and the gun flew out of his hand. Rob was old by that point. He was in his 50s, but he was still as strong as an ox. We fought for a while, and I managed to get on top of him. Rob smoked cigarettes, and he was winded. While I had him down, I took the opportunity to stand up and kick him in the face. He was done, and I could tell. I picked the gun up off the floor, and I was just going to take it. But then I thought about it. Would my kids ever feel safe as long as Rob knew where we lived and where they went to school? And the answer was probably no. So I pointed the gun in Rob's direction. He chuckled and said, "Go ahead now, little man. If you were Kenny, I'd probably be worried. But you ain't no killer, and we both know that." And I just shot him. Once in the chest and once in the head. I started walking towards the door, and then I thought about it. What is Rob really going to do with $25,000 now? I took the money and walked out. Hot Boy had been right about one thing. The first one was the hardest. Killing Rob was much easier than killing the security guard. I ain't even think twice about it. I went home and took a shower. The plan was to stay there with the kids and act surprised when I got the call about Pops. But that turned out to be even bigger surprise than I bargained for. I did get a call about Pops, but it wasn't the one that I was expecting. Mom called and told me that Pops had been injured in a shootout and he was in the hospital. Pops was in the hospital. That old nigga made it. It turns out that they weren't going to let him go out like that. The Commonwealth of Virginia is good about making sure you pay. They ain't want him dead. They wanted him to go to court. Pops got shot in the shoulder and in the leg. He never even got a shot off. They saw the gun and took him out. Me and Mom went to the hospital, but they ain't let us see him, of course. They explained that he'd be charged with armed robbery, murder, grand larceny for the theft of the vehicle, brandishing a firearm on law enforcement, possession of a firearm as a felon, possession of a firearm while in commission of a felony, and assault on law enforcement. Apparently, he fought when they tried to arrest him. And in my mind, I knew that Pops wasn't ever coming home, and that killed me. It also killed me that I'd have to have a conversation with Ma. I didn't want to, and it wasn't ever my intention. But she had put some things together. I went to her house after we left the hospital. Ma looked me in my eyes and said, "What happened, Ken? I know there's more to this story, and I need for you to tell me. Y'all both left out of here with your car this morning. Your daddy came back driving your car, but you weren't with him. He was nervous and pacing, but he wouldn't tell me what was going on. He got a phone call and went outside. Without telling me anything, he left. He was driving his car when he left. Your car was left here. Somehow, his car got back and your car disappeared, but he never came back. Suddenly, he's out in the woods with a stolen car, and they're saying he didn't rob the bank. And you're saying that you don't know nothing about it because you've been at home with the kids the whole time. The kids that you claim been with Mia for spring break all week. But suddenly, they're at your house. Now, I kept quiet with the cops, and you know I'm going to keep doing that. But I need to know what happened for myself, Ken." All I could do was shake my head. It was a crazy story to have to tell, and until that moment, I realized that I hadn't said it all out loud. I had told Hot Boy some of the story, but he didn't know anything past Mia owing Rob the money. I had told Pops a good portion of it, but that had obviously stopped at the point where he got arrested. For the first time, I was about to spill it all out. And I did. Mia and I met while I was in prison. She was smuggling drugs in for Black, and they targeted me, thinking that I'd be a good fit for his operation. It didn't work out that way, but me and Mia liked each other, so we linked up after I got out. I moved in with her when she got pregnant, but the relationship was rocky. Black came home, and me and Mia started bumping heads even more. I didn't know that they had been romantically involved with each other for years. I moved out, which gave Black a little more free range. Him and Mia started selling for Rob. For some reason, Black ran off with $25,000 of Rob's money. Mia was left owing Rob. She lied and told me that she was going to get the money from a relative in North Carolina, but she didn't. She skipped town. I knew Rob was going to kill her if she didn't come up with the money, so I got it from Hot Boy. I gave the money to Rob, but he told me that it was too late. Mia was supposed to pay him at 12 o'clock that Friday, and I had missed the deadline by almost 3 hours. As a result, he had already had her killed. But because he had to pay for that, he was holding me responsible for reimbursing him. To make sure that I paid, he kidnapped the kids. Rob gave me 9 days to come up with $25,000, or he was going to kill him. I didn't want to worry anyone, so I said that the kids were on spring break with Mia. I used that time to rob whoever I could for the money, But as I got closer to the end of the week, I was running out of ideas. Pop got suspicious and came to me, so I ended up telling him what was going on. He talked me into going to a gambling spot so he could count cards for the remaining of the money this morning. And he got close. I was less than $1,400 from the goal, but I was also less than 2 days away. I was stressed out, and I made an impulsive decision. I jumped out of the red light and decided to rob a bank. Pops didn't know anything about it. Things went left when I got inside, and I ended up killing a security guard. I knew the teller. I used to date her. She recognized me, but she didn't say anything. She gave me the money and the keys to her car. I went to the spot I knew about in the woods. I called Pops to come and get me, but somehow the cops found out where we were. We heard the sirens, and Pops told me to take the money and run so I could pay Rob and be out here to take care of the kids. He took the charge for me. I heard gunshots, and I thought Pops was dead, but I couldn't stop because I needed to get to Rob. I got there, and he gave me the kids. I sent them outside, and me and Rob ended up getting into it. Long story short, he's dead. Me and the kids went home, and that's when you called. Now Pops is going to go to prison for the rest of his life, and it's all my fault. For some reason, I broke down. I think I just really needed to get it all out. Like I said before, people can't even help you carry the load. Sometimes you just need to tell them that it's heavy. But Ma did help carry the load that day. She told me something that stuck with me. She said, "You did what you had to do, Ken. Those kids are always going to know who was there for them when they needed it. And it might have taken a lifetime, but your daddy was finally there when you needed him too. Don't worry about him. He'll be fine. As for Rob, the world's a better place without him. When I went to him for help, he made me smoke crack to prove that I wasn't working for the police. He dug a hole that took years for me to climb out of. Rob ruined a lot of lives. As far as I'm concerned, today's a holiday. You did good, Ken." I knew it. That nigga Rob had gotten my mama hooked on crack. He had robbed so many people of their lives and their livelihoods. And in the end, I robbed him of his. Thank you so much for listening. Make sure to follow Shinny Tells a Story on Facebook and Instagram. I'd love to hear from you. If you'd like to purchase books by Shandora Warren, they're all available on Amazon in ebook, paperback, and some in hardback formats. Please like and follow this podcast and share it with your friends, family, and frenemies, because all relationships matter, even the toxic ones. Thank you so much for helping me to create the world that I want to see. Oh yeah, you're welcome. Shine, little girl.